to meet you. We are in regular contact. So tell me, the first thing that I have to ask you is that we read a lot about the US now. What is the situation exactly for a year? Tell me, is it that bad? Is it that's why you came back for the vacations?
I would say it's a tough question to say, Uber, to answer. Reason being, there's
Mm.
many different students, many different profiles, top business schools, and each one, depending on what they want to do, each one has seen problems and different types of difficulties. So, for example, if you're international, the best bet for you now to remain in the US is through joining a top company in consulting or in banking or in tech. However, there's a lot of uncertainties, especially on roles and economy in the US, and therefore people have struggled to find jobs in general. However, I can name people who also have been able to secure, although very difficultly, jobs. So I would say, all in all, it's definitely harder than usual, but it's not impossible to stay in the US. But I can tell that I have a lot of friends who are thinking of coming back to Europe or to leave the US upon graduation, just for better sort of financial and economical stability.
And when you mean financial stability, in the US it pays very well. No, no.
True,
When you
but
mean no.
yes, that's a good point. However, I can say that many internationals are sponsored, so they have an incentive to go back, because they would not pay for the tuition. And there's also other, say, countries that pay very well. So, for example, as you probably know, Saudi Arabia, um, the United Arab Emirates, Singapore, for example, even Japan. There's a lot of countries that pay very well. And so, if you consider the number of international who are sponsored, and those was, for example, seeking to relocate in the Middle East, or in the UK in a high paying job, in finance, for example, they probably are still like considering leaving the US, especially because this might mean that they are closer to home and to loved ones. And if you add this to the fact that the US um, climate is not, political climate is not that good at the moment, a lot of people are thinking of leaving the US. That being
Yeah,
said, there's still people who still want to go to remain in the US.
no, totally. And what is your case? Because you told us that you want to create your own company. So will it be in the US? Will it be in Europe? What would the headquarters be?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, right now I'm thinking of incorporating in the US with my friends, who are friends and colleagues who are jumping on this venture with me. However, we're open to make it work essentially. So we're giving ourselves 6 months to see if this venture is going to through an accelerator and is starting raising funds. um, and if that's the case, we're definitely considering incorporating in Delaware and then making business in the East Coast.
Hmm?
If that's not the case, then we'll see other avenues. But so far, the American uh, the American sort of economy is still best for this kind of venture we want to create.
Yeah, because I don't know how much you're going to raise, but in Europe it's difficult to. We cannot raise the same amount, and they are very picky. Huh? You see,
Yeah.
maybe people complain, but they should come to Europe. They should see what it is because still it's. Now you basically you have decided not to go for a job, huh? Okay, not to. So you stop at some stage. I believe I remember that in November, December, you decide that you will stop your job search, and then you would create your company. When did you decide that finally you're going to go in a different direction?
I mean, it was almost a choice of, I'll say, a selfish choice. So basically, I was in the pipeline of recruiting like many other classmates, but it
Mm,
was more of a the recruiting sort of FOMO was more due to the fact that that's the normal path for many students,
mm,
and as I was like sort of exploring different opportunities um, in the ecosystem, I was like, maybe looking for a job is not what I really want to do, but
yeah.
having my own thing is what I want to do. So, speaking with professors at MIT, speaking with other classmates, and sort of shaping out the venture that we're building, um, I was essentially drawn to spending time on this. And as you put the hours and you see this thing sort of shaping and coming out, I was like, I can take the summer to work on this and see where it goes. If it doesn't work well, I can still recruit for full time in the fall
Mm.
for a new job. So I was like, why not?
No. At the same time, you get the summer internship is important. So if you can explain to our students that it is important for two reasons. First, because it's well paid, huh? And
Huh?
all that is expensive. And so on of all, it's the first step into recruitment. So can you explain? Can you explain the purpose of the summer internship, how it works to get the summer internship, what you do? Is it really like, do you really work like an intern? And what is the purpose of these summer internships?
So first of all, the summer internship is not mandatory. Meaning I have quite a few students, especially classmates who, especially those who are sponsored, for example, that might not be interested in the summer internship, and they just spend the time of the summer traveling
Yeah.
and having fun. For those who are though want to have like the full MBA experience, summer internship um, is definitely a staple in the curriculum. So summer internship has two sort of goals. One is to gain new experience in an industry that you're pivoting. So, for example, if you come from consulting, want to do tech, maybe you spend the first semester looking for product management roles in tech, or starting ops in tech, etc. You apply for jobs, you land an interview, and then you have that experience on your resume. And then the second sort of goal of the summer internship is for you to have a foot in the door for a full-time recruitment. So especially in the US, a lot of US companies have MBA pipeline. So there's an established process that allow you to work um, after at the end of your MBA. And so what they do, they basically test you for the summer before the second year to make sure that they can hire you for the after the MBA. So a lot of companies like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, big banks, or tech, or even corporate um, offerings, they have these summer internship programs where the pay is really good, and they allow you to work for like normally 10 to 12 weeks over the summer, and then most likely they hand you a full time offer for when you finish. So for you, it's a way to make some money over the summer, and eventually then get your foot in the door for a full time opportunity right after.
Okay. And I remember that I saw you sometime with pictures of other friends. There was a French guy, for instance.
Hmm.
What does he decide to do? The French guy, for instance.
Uh, that's a good question. So I think that the French guy is not pursuing an MBA at the moment. So he's decided to stay there where he is and working and keep working full time. Although I think he might consider taking an MBA in the future, but with all this sort of economic uncertainty, he was not ready to spend more time in the application.
So he decided to come back to France, and what is he doing now?
I think he's just working for a French company, an insurance company. I don't know if it's AXA or
Okay,
Crédit Agricole.
very good. And it's probably in a finance job, I guess so.
Yeah.
Uh, so yes, that's I perfectly understand. So can you tell us, without displaying too much information, so in which field is your company? A
So we're
bit,
doing something in healthcare.
yeah.
It's in I would say healthcare and technology, so maybe health tech, and specifically in data management and sort of recommendations for users, essentially.
Okay, so that's the direction in which you're doing. But and tell me, so I have I introduced you in the
Hmm.
in a post, and at the same time you came back to Italy because I don't know, inverted comma, work in or on the family business. So can you tell us what the family business is about, and the plans that you have about family business? I mean, that's something we
Yeah.
discussed in time, by the way. Remember?
So yeah, the family business is in the food and beverage.
Yeah.
We have different stores that essentially sell everything from pastries to bakeries to, I would say, chocolate, etc. In the northeast of Italy. And as I'm sort of developing skill set in financial statement analysis, I'm uh, thinking of basically revamping the business and applying all the knowledge that I got from the MBA to making the business more successful.
Now, what are your plans? If you have like three course of action, what will be the three course of action to make a beverage, a bakery, restaurant company more successful? So, what are your plans, um,
Well, I would say
Davide?
first is obviously, um, I mean, operatively speaking, definitely understanding a bit more what are the gaps and the opportunities through financial statement analysis and strategic and ops analysis. And I think that's a perfect example to apply MBA skill set. And then second is basically understanding what's the overall, say, goal for our generation and the future generation and the previous generation, and understanding essentially whether we want to exit the business or essentially make it like scale it up and transform it for the next decades. So this is something we're assessing at the moment, and
Yeah,
we'll decide when it's time.
yeah, because it's at the same time it's a good thing. Of course, as I told you, maybe a bit too early, for
Yeah.
you, uh, because but that's typically the type of business that you do when you're 50 years old. You have made wealth, you had a career, and you want to come back to your roots,
Yeah.
and live where you have been. How do you feel after having spent time in New York, in Boston? We met when you were in London. Going back to you from Padova, huh? If I'm right,
Yes.
if I recall.
Yes.
So how do you feel? What is it like? Is it you feel like on vacation? Then
I mean, it's home is obviously home. It's different from the U.S. in general. I mean, Boston and New York are different from the whole U.S. Obviously, like they're very international. They're very open. Um, Boston, especially, is extremely safe and extremely clean city. There's a huge opportunity in terms of meeting intellectual people there because of Harvard and MIT and many other universities. And there's a big, I would say, concentration of very interesting people. Similarly, in New York, there's a lot of going on. Um, Italy is more like, at least where I'm from, is definitely like years behind in terms of innovation. And I would say in terms of living life, though, it's probably better balance because of the food, because of the weather, because of like overall mindset that people have. They're just more relaxed and more like in tune with life, whereas the US feels like more prone to like fast pace and rush hours. So I would say spending, some weeks in Italy once in a while is definitely good for your mental health. I'm sure for you, but it's the same when you go to France
Hmm?
compared to other areas where you are in, for example, now, right?
Yes, it's true, and of course, especially when you live in Africa, you can imagine compared to a small city. But Padova is bigger than the place where I live in France. The place where I live in France, where I'm 10,000 inhabitants. Padova has how many? 100,000? How many? Padova,
200,
100,000.
250 probably.
It's a provincial city, so it's already 20 times bigger than the city where I live in France. So it's already it cannot be compared. Uh, when you come back to Europe, how do you feel in terms of
I
economics,
mean,
in terms of dynamism, in terms of political
it feels
climate? How do you
I
feel?
would say it feels slower in
Yeah.
general,
Mm,
and it feels probably um less bullish.
mm,
Like,
mm,
if you think about economy overall, here it feels like less bullish. In the US, there's a more there's the opportunity of failure is there, and there everyone is aware, but they push you towards trying and then trying again. And
mm,
especially if you're at university, failing is part of the learning process. Whereas here in Europe, I feel like there's more of a social stigma if you fail, so people don't even take risks. um, for multiple reasons, I would say mostly is like social mindset. If you fail your venture
You
or
lose.
whatever you're
You lose.
doing,
You mean that there's something wrong with you, huh? If you fail, there's
yes,
something wrong with you. If you're a civil
exactly,
servant, there's nothing wrong with you. But if you start something and you there's something wrong with you, huh? You agree?
exactly. And there's a lot of, I mean, there's some people are very envious of your success.
Mm,
So if you show that you succeed, you attract negative energy. Whereas
mm,
I feel like in the US is, I mean, at least in certain environments, especially the academic environments, you are celebrated if you fail, or even more if you success. So overall, like, that's probably the power of American uh, mentality. That being said, it's not easy to succeed. There's a lot of competition, a lot of bright minds, um, and there's a lot of capital there, many more um, opportunities than in outside abroad. But overall, there's high fierce competition, especially from top schools, because everyone, especially now, is trying to come up with some very cool AI related idea or venture.
mm.
So there's a lot of noise and very little signal, but that's why it's super important to come up with a strong value proposition and like strong credentials.
But you agree, Davide, it's a bit like you're a bit too young, but when the internet started in the late 90s, you had to have your own startup, and if you
Yes,
didn't have it, you were a loser, and everybody was in it. 99.99 failed, 99.99% failed, but you had to be in it. So I understand what you're talking about. By the way, we didn't mention much, but tell us what is it to study at MIT? Well, what is a typical day at MIT, and what is it that you have at MIT that, according to you, you have nowhere else?
I mean, MIT, first of all, it's very depending on what you're studying. So
Hmm?
MIT is one of the top schools that offers pretty much anything you want. That being said, it's very focused on quantitative and analytics, especially even at business school. The influx from the engineering school is very strong. So you have a lot of courses that are business case, like Harvard, for example. But you also have a lot of courses that have just standard classes and sort of a hands-on approach to learning. So just basically get your hands dirty and learn by doing. Um, that being said, the day is very flexible. Just the first course semester, you have classes pretty much every morning.
Hmm?
Uh, Normally at MIT, you don't have classes on Friday. maybe some electives, but in general, core classes are not on Fridays. And in terms of say schedule,
So sorry,
class,
Davide, so it means you have classes from Mondays to Thursdays, and it's only
yes.
in the morning, what, from 9 to 12? Yeah?
No, no, no. So the core curriculum is basically mornings, Monday to Thursday, and then
Okay.
when you start the second semester, second, third, and fourth semester, because there's 4 semesters at Sloan, um, you can choose whichever course you want, as long as you meet the minimum number of credits and you don't go beyond the ceiling of the credits, the cap that you have. Normally, classes are Monday to Thursday, but there are some electives that are taught on Fridays. Um,
And what do they
classes
do
are
like for Friday? Because so that you can look for a job, you can go back home, you
Yeah,
have different
it's
activities.
uh, just because if you, especially, it's more for the engineering school because if you have homework, etc., sometimes you have deliverables on Friday, by Friday, so they prefer to keep the weekend off so that you can work during the week and then maybe uh just replenish your energy for the weekend. That being said, classes are 1.5 hour. Normally, you have 5 minutes. They start 5 minutes later, and they end 5 minutes earlier than the time that they have in the schedule. So, for example, if the class is from 8:30 to 10, it means that it starts at 8:35 and it ends at 9:55, and that's because they want you to have 10 minutes in between classes so that you can maybe move from one building to another on time to attend whichever class. And technically, they do this so that they allow to, at any point, technically, to be able to walk from one building at the very end of the campus to the one at the very other end of the
Okay.
campus to be able to attend class.
But it takes
Um,
more than 5 minutes, Davide, to go from one end, one part of the campus. So they consider you have 10 minutes, the five
They
and
they
five.
say they say that standard MIT time is 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
there's also a lot of bikes and electric scooters, so you can technically can get within 8 minutes of an electric bike or even in a bike to the other side of MIT campus. That being said, it's very unlikely that you have to do that because schools are located in clusters. So if you, for example, are in the management school Sloan, it's at the very end of the campus. It's unlikely that you have to go all the way to the other one to the civil
Yeah,
engineering
yeah. Okay.
department.
Okay. And tell me your story. So we worked together. So you got accepted to many schools,
Uh-huh.
but you were close to going to Chicago. Then you switched from Chicago to MIT. You regret your choice, or you don't regret probably? But do you have one regret? Because we always regret something. So do you have one regret?
I mean, definitely, Chicago would have been a very, very beautiful experience, especially considering the city. Um, and the fact that it's in Midwest, so very warm area. Um, Probably the thing that I would have regret about Chicago is the fact that it's a very finance heavy uh, coursework. However, MIT also is very finance heavy. We have a Nobel Prize in economy just last year, uh, and we have a very strong school of finance at MIT. So overall, I would say, um, I can't really. um I can't really say that I'm not happy with my choice. And the moment you choose one school and you make your choice, you kind of, you don't think about what if, right, Uber? Like you
Yeah.
just start with that and you say, okay, fine. I'm just in this school and I don't even think about what if I had Berkeley or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
or whatever.
Because you receive a good scholarship for Berkeley, I remember. You receive a good
Yes.
scholarship for Berkeley. But maybe when you want to work in your sector, Berkeley would have been a good thing. It's the Silicon Valley. It would have been interesting. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is, of course, one of the drawbacks of, as you know, of Chicago. It's in a very dangerous campus,
Yeah,
and people there is no campus life. So the fact that you say I study, and then I take the train and to go back home in the center of Chicago, there's something missing. What is
yeah.
life like in Boston? I'm sure that you love it. So how much you love it?
From I would say seven, 7.5, maybe.
Okay,
It's a very student.
it's not a 10 out of 10. No, it's not a 10 out of
No, that
10.
would be probably New York, Uber,
Okay,
because
right.
Boston is very chilled. It's very sort of it's a New England city.
Mm,
So after like 9 p.m., everything is closed basically. Only
mm,
a few bars are open. So it's good if you're a student, especially if you're an undergrad. But the New York life, like
mm,
nightlife, and in general, entertainment and overall, say, quality of life is, well, not quality of life, but in general, like entertainment scene is much, much, much more fizzy.
yeah.
Now, Boston is safer and has its perks, but it's not comparable to New York, I think.
Okay. So I'm going to let you go, but last piece. So what piece of advice would you give to someone who wants to study in America? Is it still worth it? And what is the best way to get in? What are the techniques, the strategy, the do's and don'ts that you have to consider? And
Yeah. So, I mean, going to the US is something that I would recommend anyone who's interested in broaden their mindset for many reasons, especially if they come from Europe. They will see different ways of thinking, and they will experience, I would say, they would experience opportunities and meet people that nowhere they could meet in Europe. Um Even if this has a cost. In terms of, preparing, I would say definitely spend time on your application, get advice from people like you, Hubert, um, for, advice and in general structure, because it's super important, I think, to have someone who has navigated the process before and who has experience. Because most of the times is part of like finding your own selling point. And sometimes you just come from families who have been into the field and they know. So if you're, for example, mom or dad are in the academic, and they, or they have very good jobs, and they've done this, they probably already have a lot of um, tricks or tips to do this. But if you don't, definitely talking to someone who knows and who can support you and recommend you uh, would boost the chances. That being said, it is a tough process. We both know. Uh, Many times is just subjective evaluation of people who will read your application and who, you know, make a decision. And like you, there might be three other candidates, and they end up picking you or one of the other three. Uh, but what I'm saying is, if you try to get your credentials to the top, and you craft a great story and you get advice from experts, you can definitely have a shot. And I'd rather spend time and have certainty of succeed, or at least like get a spot somewhere, than taking a risk and not, you know being doing the same process over and over for years without really succeeding. So that's my two cents.
yeah, at the same time, you got a very good result, but at the same time, I have to say that you're a very good student. Your GRE was good, international exposure. You have a math background, and you study at ESADE. So basically, you're an easy case, because your profile is very strong. Okay, but you're typically the type of person who has a very strong profile, and if you're taken care of well, you can do well. Especially, have the feeling, because I had several engineers this year, is that if you come from a an ethical background like yours, you're more likely to get in, because there are so many people who come from business and economics that they are looking for people like you. So engineers, scientists, because you studied mathematics and then data science, they love this type of profile. And provided that you write a good application, that you're a nice person, that you can smile, that you can communicate well. I have a student, for instance, who applied to 13 masters this year.
Yeah.
Masters, not MBAs. They applied to Michigan, Duke, Cornell, MIT, Columbia, and plus HEC, ESSEC, and he got them all. He got them all. Imagine. And he got 13 out of 13. And he was a good guy, but nothing outstanding. He didn't have he was far from having the background of your friend.
Right.
The guy who was at MIT. Far from that. He was like a B level. Your friend is a A level. He was a B level, but even with that, and an okay GRE, not even saying top GRE, he got MIT, Michigan, Duke, Cornell, all of them. Yeah. So it was nice to talk to you. So now that you're an entrepreneur, you're going to visit your accountant. I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Ben.
Digging in numbers, and of course we are regularly in contact. Have a good day, Davide. Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Bye bye.